In April 30th, 1943, off the coast of Huelva, Spain, a local fisherman, Jose Antonio Rey Maria, discovers a body. This, in itself, is not unusual. The Atlantic is a graveyard in this, the fourth year of the Second World War. But this body is different. The man is an officer, a major. The briefcase is marked secret. What Jose Antonio couldn't know is that he had just found the most important man who never lived. He had found a ghost, a fabrication, a meticulously crafted lie. He had found the secret corpse that would change the entire course of the Second World War. Act 1. The Impenetrable Wall. 1943. The tide of the war is turning, but slowly and at a terrible cost. The Allies have just secured victory in North Africa. The next logical step is to retake Europe. But where? The soft underbelly of Europe, as Winston Churchill called it. The problem was the target was obvious: Sicily. From captured North African airfields, Sicily was the only major target the Allies could invade while still covered by their own fighter planes. It was the perfect, logical, and only move. And Adolf Hitler knew it. The Germans knew it. Sicily was rapidly becoming one of the most heavily defended islands on Earth. A direct assault, Operation Husky, was planned, but Allied commanders predicted a bloodbath. They were expecting tens of thousands of casualties. The Allies didn't just need a plan to invade, they needed a plan to convince Hitler to look the other way. They needed a distraction, a deception so vast, so profound, it would force the German High Command to move its tanks, its planes, and its best soldiers away from the real target. This job fell to the 20 Committee, Britain's counter-espionage and deception organization, so named because their Roman numeral XX formed a double cross. They had successfully run double agents and fed the Germans misinformation for years. But this was different. This required a masterstroke. Act 2. A madman's idea. The seed of the idea was planted years earlier. In 1939, Admiral John Godfrey, the director of naval intelligence, received a memo from his restless, creative personal assistant. The memo detailed 51 mad but plausible ideas for deceiving the enemy. The assistant's name was Ian Fleming. Yes, that Ian Fleming. Years before he created James Bond, Fleming was a real-life spy handler. Item 28 on his Trout memo was simple, morbid, and brilliant. At the time, the idea was filed away as too macabre, too complex. But now, in 1943, with thousands of lives on the line, the desperate and the macabre were exactly what the 20 Committee needed. The plan was resurrected by two unlikely figures: an eccentric RAF flight lieutenant named Charles Chalmondy and a sharp and composed naval intelligence officer and barrister named Ewan Montague. Together, they would become the architects of the greatest deception in military history. They gave it a codename: Operation Mincemeat. You have to understand the sheer audacity of this. This isn't just writing a fake letter. You can't just find a body and dump it. The Germans and their Spanish allies would perform an autopsy. They would check everything. If one single, solitary detail was wrong, the entire ruse would collapse. Not only would it fail, but it would confirm to Hitler that Sicily was the real target. The first and ghoulish task was finding their hero. They couldn't use a soldier. They'd have to notify a family. They couldn't use a fresh corpse. The cause of death had to be consistent with someone who had drowned and floated for days. After a discreet search, they found him. a homeless man named Glyndor Michael. He had died in London after ingesting rat poison. Critically, the poison had caused fluid to build up in his lungs, mimicking the effects of a drowning. He had no known family. He was, in the cold calculus of war, the perfect candidate. A man who had been invisible in life would become indispensable in death. Montague and Cholmondeley kept the body preserved in a special ice-packed container. Now, they had to give this ghost a life. Act 4. The Master Forgery. The deception couldn't be a simple official order. The Germans would be suspicious. It had to be subtle. It had to be human. The team forged a letter, not from one military department to another, but a personal letter from Lieutenant General Sir Archibald Nye, the Vice Chief of the Imperial General Staff, to General Sir Harold Alexander, the commander of the Allied forces in North Africa. This is the masterstroke. It's written, "Old boy." Nye complains about supply issues. He makes a small, slightly off-color joke about the Americans, and then he casually mentions the upcoming invasion plans. The letter didn't say the invasion is in Greece. It was far cleverer. It implied that the Germans already knew Sicily was a target, and that the Allies were using this obvious target as a feint. The letter outlined a two-pronged attack. Operation Husky was mentioned as the diversionary assault. The real attacks, the letter hinted, were Operation Brimstone against Sardinia and a main thrust into Greece. It's a beautiful double bluff. The letter essentially tells the Germans, "We know you think we're going for Sicily, you're right, but that's just a feint. The real show is in Greece." It was designed to confirm their existing suspicions and then redirect them. To ensure the Germans read it, but also to know if they had, the team placed a single eyelash inside the letter. When the Spanish returned the documents, if the eyelash was gone, they'd know the trap was sprung. On April 19, 1943, the body of Major Martin was sealed in a special steel canister marked "Handle with Care, Optical Instruments." It was loaded onto the submarine HMS Seraph. The crew was told they were transporting a top-secret weather monitoring device. Only the captain and his officers knew the truth. Act 5. Hook, Line, and Sinker. For 10 days, the submarine traveled to the coast of Spain. On April 30th, at 4:30 a.m., in the dark, they surfaced just off the coast of Huelva. The submarine's captain, Lieutenant Bill Jewell, had his crew sent below decks. He and his officers gathered on the pitching deck. They couldn't just dump the body. This was a man, even if a fabricated one. They read Psalm 39. "I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me." They aimed for a current that would wash him ashore. Then, they waited. The body was found exactly as planned. And, just as planned, the local German intelligence agent, Adolf Klaus, was all over it. The Spanish, though officially neutral, were friendly to the Nazis. The next phase of the deception began. The British demanded the briefcase be returned immediately, unopened. They sent a flurry of panic cables, all of which they knew the Germans would intercept. This is, again, brilliant psychology. If you want someone to read a secret, you act terrified that they will. The British feigned desperation. This convinced the Spanish and their German friends that the contents of that briefcase were of earth-shattering importance. The Spanish, eager to please both sides, borrowed the documents long enough for the Germans to photograph them. The briefcase was returned to the British. Montague opened it in the London lab. The eyelash was gone. The photos were rushed to Berlin directly to Hitler's desk. He studied them. The personal nature of the letter, the mundane pocket litter, the planted officer, the fake British panic. It was all too perfect not to be real. He bought it. All of it. The order was given. The German High Command went into a frenzy, redirecting its forces to the wrong targets. 2 entire panzer divisions were moved to Greece. Another was sent to Sardinia. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the legendary Desert Fox, was sent to Athens to command the new Army Group Greece. German torpedo boats and mine layers were diverted from Sicily to the Greek islands. Sicily, the real target, was left exposed. On May 13th, the plotters in London received a coded message from their double agents in the German High Command. The message was just 3 words: mincemeat swallowed whole. Act 6. The Man Who Never Was. On July 9, 1943, Operation Husky began.